Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, just look how this works. Like the military part, the missiles, that's your guys' strength. I really can't do much with that other than sit and learn from what you're saying. But look how this happened here. They first convinced us we defeated communism, so there's no communist threat. In the Soviet publications, they say we took away the image of the enemy to strengthen the socialist forces in the capitalist countries. So they've achieved that. So all the old Cold Warriors who understood communism, they died off for old age, happy that we won. So there's very few people now that have the depth of knowledge that we have, I believe. And then they were able to get a lot of people working for them, whether it's unwittingly or out-and-out enemy agents. You see America, we had the head of the FBI, admitted he was a communist in college. John Brennan voted for the Communist Party candidate for president on America's 200th birthday, and these guys were in charge. So look what they did. The enemy sends us a virus. It didn't escape. They sent us a freaking virus to change how we vote. So they're able to manipulate opinion in this country, and it's all in writing. It's all in writing between the Soviet publications, American Communist Party publications I have. They talk about working inside and outside the Democratic Party. This is all out in the open, just like a lot of what you're talking about is open, pretty much open information if people would look at it. But now we got to convince people that we're really in serious trouble. And I think the human mind would rather ignore it because it's too hard to accept. So the alternative would be to build a massive military buildup. It looks kind of late for us to do that. The other alternative would be to let's talk peace. We'd be intimidated, and maybe we could make peace and get out of the situation. And I don't know if the Soviets have done it yet, but what we're talking about, we need a massive military buildup. The enemy is going to be building a massive peace movement. And the World Peace Council is on record as saying America's military is a threat to world peace. The World Health Organization says America's military is a threat to world health. And the World Council of Churches says America's military is a sin. So we have all of these cultural, social, political, and economic warfare going on in our country following the strategies of Antonio Gramsci, which is basically a more modern interpretation of Sun Tzu. And we can't convince people of the danger, even though this is pretty much all out in the open.
Yeah, they won't believe it even if you show it to them.
That's right. That's right. It's like if your neighbor, God forbid, you see your neighbor's daughter riding in a car with a pimp or your neighbor's son hanging out with drug dealers. You want to tell your neighbor, but when you bring your neighbor bad news, he could thank you for bringing him the news, or he could hate you for bringing him bad news. That's the psychological problem. People won't want to believe what we're saying.
No, you could literally, as Lee just said, you could put it right in front of them, and they're not going to believe it. We do put it right in front of them. They don't believe it. I guess it's like trying to force feed a toddler his vegetables, if you will. You know, you've got
or me,
yeah, or whoever. You know, someone that doesn't like the taste of something. Well, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to swallow it.
In the shopping mall regime, people shop for the truth. They don't understand that buying something at the store isn't the same thing as finding what is real. Oh, look, this fits. I'm going to buy into this narrative, you know?
Yeah. As we were talking about that earlier today, Jeff, is the amount of narrative shift to the right side of things is astounding. The talking points that they pick up, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I would think these people were Vietnam War protesters. The way they talk about Ukraine is, we got to get out of Ukraine. We got to get out of Vietnam. Wait a minute, we're not in Ukraine. What do you mean?
We've got 250,000 NATO troops that are supposedly ready to go into Ukraine. Where are they?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we had 500,000 troops in Vietnam at the height of that war. We don't have any military divisions, regiments, battalions in Ukraine. We just don't. The idea that it's our war is just so crazy, and to take the agency away from the Ukrainians. This is part of the Russian narrative that it's our war and we can end it, and Trump can just be done with it and wipe his hands. It's just crazy.
The other thing is that I have found is people don't want to see it. Yeah. Even when you show it to them, they don't want to look at it. They can't believe that what you're saying is true, even when you can show it to them on a satellite imagery.
Yeah, because it doesn't mix with their view that they think that the U.S. military is all supreme and that our intelligence and CIA is the baddest boys on the planet. They're so bad that we need to rein them in. They don't realize what Russia and the KGB and communism has done, and the infiltration of our society and the tweaking of our education and our universities and the infiltration of the CDC, even all our biological warfare defense agencies. Look, in the White House, we've had people who were really worked as shills for Moscow. Look at Biden. He was a shill for Moscow when he was in the Senate. Trevor can speak to that.
Absolutely. And
Well, what got me? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, because look, he was a shill for Moscow. He invited Russia into the war. He didn't really supply the Ukrainians with much, but because the war was on, supposedly he was the president helping Ukraine, that put a lot of American conservatives off helping Ukraine right there. So he actually served Russia's purposes.
Well, the thing that gets me is you got Robert F. Kennedy, and Kennedy, wanted to run for president. Well, the crazy fact is that we have a guy by the name of Scott Ritter.
Yes.
Scott Ritter's a shill.
Oh, yeah.
He was a recruited agent for sure.
Yeah. The same thing with guys like Douglas McGregor and these other
Absolutely.
characters.
But
yeah,
this is the photograph of Ritter and Kennedy.
Goodness.
Yeah.
That's
together
crazy.
right before the election.
That's crazy.
I mean, literally, this was weeks before the election.
Look,
RFK
RFK was supporting communist.
RFK Jr.
Yeah, RFK was supporting communist causes for years. When he's working for the Natural Resources Defense Council, they were getting money from the Russians to shut down American fracking. He campaigned against the Vieques naval base in Puerto Rico. That was a communist program. So he's been in bed with them. And I actually like his health stuff, but he can't be anywhere near foreign policy, that's for sure. But Scott Ritter, twice convicted pedophile. His wife was an in-tourist guide. Just
his wife,
self-confessed Hamas supporter.
Yeah, his wife, Scott Ritter's wife, was actually his Maria, I believe her name is, was his handler. Whenever he would get paid, and Ritter actually admitted this in a public statement. I believe it was on his social media account. He said that he's a freelance journalist. He gets paid for the work that he does. He's an RT contributor, and she is the one. His wife is the one that handles the money when it comes in. So she's the handler, and I believe
she's a Russian citizen of Georgian nationality.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the anniversary of Russia attacking Ukraine, Scott Ritter went to the Russian embassy in Washington, D.C. and had drinks.
Doesn't shock me in the least.
No.
And of course, the FBI raided his house, and what have they done since then? Nothing.
Yes, that was when he made that public statement. It was right after that raid. Now, the FBI have questioned his wife before, I believe, on multiple occasions.
They suspected her. I think they were following her around for a while.
Yeah,
it's absolutely insane. But that's, you got Scott Ritter, you got Colonel McGregor, who is just a shill from hell. I can't believe that guy ever got to be a colonel. I don't know what type of oral favors he was doing to people.
If you were to look at what you brought up, Trevor, a few weeks ago, the Forum of the Future, I think is what it was called, the 2050 conference that was hosted by Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov and Maria Zakharova. Yeah. And if you look at the speakers that they had on stage, I think that's all you need to see.
Yeah, it was Elon Musk's dad. It was I don't know if Scott Ritter was there, but several of these Russian shills were there.
George Galloway, Alex Jones.
Alex Jones. Yeah. And it was all about reestablishing the Russian Empire, which will include all of Central and Eastern Europe, the Middle East, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and parts of Africa and Latin America. That was that was explicitly stated with the blessing of Lavrov. But they're going to stop at the border of Ukraine, right?
Did you actually see that the Russians went into Uzbekistan yesterday? They crossed the border yesterday morning.
No, I didn't.
Yes.
Well, Robert Baer tells the story when he was down in the stands some years ago. Robert Baer, the former CIA guy, that he decided to explore the border, and he runs into this border patrol unit, and this captain starts running at him with a loaded revolver, waving above his head, saying, "You're not allowed in this part of the Soviet Union."
Interesting.
Yeah. There's lots of stories like that out of Central Asia.
If you want to check that out, Lee, you need to. They're in there doing exercise. The Russians crossed the border. They took a lot of hardware in there too. They took APCs, BMPs.
Send me a link.
They took Mi-24 helicopters. They're in there drilling with the Uzbek army.
Yeah, send me a link on that.
Yeah, I will. Sorry, Jimmy. Go ahead.
So
That group, National Resources Defense Council, I have a flyer for some anti-nuclear peace rally, and it was the Soviet ambassador, the National Council American Soviet Friendship Committee, and National Resources Defense Council. And National Resources Defense Council was pushing for the U.S. Navy to quit using sonar because it upsets the whales. Well, sonar is how we track the Soviet subs. So, and that was in Sputnik magazine, which is a Soviet publication. So that group, and another Soviet publication, obviously in English, I only read English, they talk a lot against the atomic bombs we use in World War II. They talked about the danger of nuclear war. And one of the scientists that they quote from is a guy from the National Resource Defense Council. The name is something like Thomas or Thompson. I don't remember offhand. So it is a really far-left group. I mean, they work directly with the Soviets, National Resource Defense Council. And Robert Kennedy was their lawyer for, I think, 20 years. Now, some of this, I'm into health, food, and vitamins too, but a lot of this is a roundabout way, so it's not obvious, to go against corporations, because communists are against, big business. So one way to discredit corporations is you tie them to having bad ingredients in food that hurt us. So we have to take care of that. But I think the initiation of that might not have been so much for our health. It may have been to discredit big corporations, hence meaning capitalism.
Oh, you said you were into vitamins and minerals, chelated minerals. That's my input on vitamins.
Yeah.
And it kicked me off again. I'm sure that you noticed. So
we noticed.
We hear you.
Back to what we were saying earlier. Any questions in the chat, Lee?
The only question I had was, is there a Soviet buildup or Russian buildup near Alaska? And yes, they've started moving troops and equipment, aircraft, increasing the size of the military base. And then they just did this latest news with increasing the size of the nuclear facility that they've got over there. So, yeah, they're prepared on both sides. The western flank of Russia up against the Baltics, including Belarus and Kaliningrad, and then the eastern side of Russia, which is west of Alaska. So, yeah, they're getting ready, without a doubt.
They send us a virus. It changes how we vote. So whatever voting fraud ballots, all the things combined, they got their guy into the White House. He opens the borders, floods the country with a massive amount of people we can't assimilate. Among them, obviously, we have snipers, saboteurs, suicide bombers. We have all kind of trouble that comes in. That strategy, I don't believe people like Pelosi thought that up. That comes probably more from Georgy Orbitov Institute Study of USA and Canada, which is part of the Soviet Academy of Sciences. Absolutely brilliant. And the communists right. This is one of the things they stress. Organization increases strength tenfold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold. So organization, research, strategy, and tactics is their strength, and that's our weak point, meaning the Western world.
My people are telling me that we have over 3 million terrorists in the country right now.
I wouldn't doubt it.
We see the riots. So that's another thing.
How do you define a terrorist, Lee? Are you talking foreign born?
A foreign military trained male that is of an adversarial country that's willing to fight for their country and already has fought for their country in the United States. In fact, one of the top bomb makers for ISIS, who served 7 years in prison in Saudi Arabia, got out in August, and in November, he's walking across the border into the United States in Arizona. And where does he live? He lives in Dallas, right up the road from me. One of the top bomb makers for ISIS.
So if you know this, how's this guy still walking around?
Because nobody in the government will do a damn thing about it.
Well, Lee, we just took al-Nusra off the terrorist list.
Yeah, they're,
at the State Department. And more than that, these cuts that the Trump administration has made at the State Department, most of these jobs that were cut, and not all of them, obviously, but a goodly percentage of them were actually analyst groups that were analyzing the Russian threat.
Well, one of the first things that Pam Bondi did